But the players are ready to kick us off here in Frankfurt.
Yep, we are getting ready to get into our very first game between reigning champion Flavio del Pidio and Traylor from the United States, coming off the back of a second place at SLC Regional this year. And so let's kick off this game number one as we get a chance to see what these trainers are bringing to the game. We've got Zacian and that Shadow Rider Calyrex on Aaron's side and that Solgaleo. And let's take a look at that Thunderous on Flavio's side.
That Thunderous is going to be definitely maybe revealing how it's trained and what ability it's going with nice and early on. I think that's something that a lot of trainers can try and learn, and you need to learn in this best of three set. But Aaron, just this power pairing, both his restricteds on the table. Just the one thrown out for Flavio, and he's probably going to have to do a little more work, make sure that Thunderous puts in a lot of value. But the Thunderous definitely has options, and if speed is something that Thunderous is worried about, well, over a decade of experience with the Thunderous will tell you it's able to resolve that problem pretty nicely, and that could be a long-term issue to deal with. Against a trainer like Aaron who relies on speed and talks at length about how speed control is the most important, this could start to cause problems. But Dynamax turn one, we're opening it up big here in Frankfurt.
Yes, we are. It's going to be Flavio that's going to go ahead and use that Dynamax, and it will be that Solgaleo receiving that Dynamax factor. And I feel like we're in for a big treat when it comes to what this Solgaleo is going to be able to do, as let's see what their first move of this turn is. Thunder is going for a very fast Eerie Impulse here just to be able to mitigate some of this special attack damage coming out from the Shadow Rider Calyrex.
That's huge. I think that's absolutely huge, and gives up exactly what that Thunderous is taking as an ability.
Oh, and it also is going to activate the Solgaleo's weakness policy there without taking too much damage. Zacian, though, on Aaron's side, going to go for a substitute here as the Solgaleo quickly goes for a Max Quake with that weakness policy boost right into the substitute that Zacian just set up.
What a turn for Flavio. I mean, he's managed to get pretty much everything he wants, not take too much damage, and get this Solgaleo super set up. Not only did he get the boost from weakness policy, it's now special defense boosted as well from the Max Quake. So honestly, this Calyrex Shadow Rider over on Aaron's side isn't going to be able to do anything in this following turn. It can try. It will do a little bit of damage. It would be essentially considered chip damage, though, and that's going to be really bad. So Aaron's probably going to be forced to switch out the Calyrex if the Zacian's trying to buy time again with something like a substitute. Then okay, that's then just another turn where you're not making any progress into the battle and you're just losing a little bit of health for your troubles. The big thing for Aaron here, though, is he probably needs to get through these Solgaleo Dynamax turns, 2 more remaining, and doing that without a Dynamax on your side is certainly a little bit harder. No access to Max Guard means if this Solgaleo keeps attacking, you're going to keep on taking damage. Now, of course, Zacian can't Dynamax, and the Calyrex Shadow Rider doesn't want to Dynamax because of how low it's getting taken in its special attack stat and how little damage it's able to do. But the same turn from Aaron, once again.
I think you have to at this point, especially when what are your options? You know, you could try to go for some defensive switches, but the Solgaleo is already set up. You're going to see a Max Steel Spike also come out from it, and after that brutal swing from that Thunderous, that Max Steel Spike is plenty to be able to clean up that Calyrex.
Yep, that brutal swing just helping out a little bit, softening things up, making sure that it can pick up those knockouts. This Solgaleo, yes, it's down to half health, but it's worked through a whole Pokemon, and it's now got a boost to both of its defenses and an extra boost to both of its attacks. So really looking good for this Solgaleo. Definitely the focal point of this team, and all Thunderous needs to do really is keep supporting it. The biggest thing right now for Aaron, I think, is being able to get this Zacian to start attacking. Of course, that Zacian hasn't had any drops to its attack. It has come in, got its Intrepid Sword boost, and is able to keep going, but it needs to land a big attack. And does Flavio have the answer to deal with that? Well, we haven't seen much out of the Thunderous yet. We've seen a couple of moves. You know, we've only seen the Eerie Impulse and the Brutal Swing. There's still 2 more to reveal.
This is still giving Aaron a lot of information, and having that Zacian continue to go for substitutes still does buy some valuable time, where now this Regieleki is in. Let's see if it can control the speed. We also haven't seen a Dynamax yet on Aaron's side, so Aaron still has plenty of tools to be able to call upon. And here's one of them right now. We are going to see a Dynamax, and it will be that Regieleki.
It has to be, for my mind. Aaron's down a Pokemon, probably wants to try and swing things back a little bit in his favor, and being able to pick up knockouts on something like this Solgaleo would be great. Even picking up the Thunderous, taking away that supportive option, because that Solgaleo is about to lose its Dynamax at the end of this turn, and this is what the Regieleki needs. Yes, it's sacrificing a turn of its Dynamax, but it's going to be able to be sticking around for the next turn.
Yeah, Behemoth Blade coming out from the Zacian. This is definitely going to try to get a knockout here onto that Thunderous. And with all of the damage that it's taken so far, Behemoth Blade will be able to get the knockout onto that Thunderous very easily. And that Max Guard now, and that Substitute, keeping Aaron's team very safe here from this final turn of Dynamax and that Max Steel Spike.
Yep, the Substitute will be getting taken out there, but at the end of the day, that's another boost, of course, to the physical defense. Your special defense is only one stage, so that gives this Regieleki a really good opportunity right now to be able to take over this game. This team does rely on, and we talked about it before the game, you know, how offensive was Aaron's team, and he's actually shown really nicely that it can play a little bit defensive. It does require a lot of investment, I'd argue. You know, the Max Guard being forced into the Dynamax there, and half your health with substitutes, but there is a defensive option, and I'm really happy to see that, and I think it's going to add a lot more to this set.
Yeah, well, now the Dynamax is over for Solgaleo. It should be an easier target for Aaron's team. Regieleki still has 2 turns of Dynamax here, but I do feel like Flavio is covering all of his options when taking a look at the damage output from Aaron's team. Went for the Eerie Impulse, hoping that it was a special attacker, but also taking a look at the team could very well be packing some physical moves, so that second Max Steel Spike there, just being able to kind of cover everything.
Between the Eerie Impulse and the Max Steel Spikes boost, you should be getting to around numerically that same position of how much can you take, and are you just halving the damage that you're taking. But nicely done by Flavio to bring in the Incineroar at the right time. Don't know how well anything on the field is going to be taking these attacks from Regieleki. Ooh, that early boost from the Max Quake, very important here.
Yeah, absolutely. Solgaleo still took a lot of damage, but that Max Quake really is going to be the thing that is saving that Solgaleo right now, as Solgaleo goes for a Trick Room here, completely turning the speeds on its head.
A really big turn, being able to stick around and set up the Trick Room. Aaron has the 2 fastest things on the field right now by a good distance as well. The Regieleki, obviously insanely fast, and the Zacian right up there as well. Now, it would be easy for Aaron in this turn, I think, to pick off exactly what he needs to pick off if the Trick Room hadn't gone up. This gives Solgaleo a little bit of wiggle room, and maybe gives us a little bit of insight as to what Flavio has in the back. We haven't seen his other restricted in the Groudon yet, and if that Groudon can come in the Trick Room, got to be feeling real good about being able to deal with that. You know, what outside on the field, it really deals with the Groudon and Trick Room. Well, both of them just get knocked out by Precipice Blades, or at least brought exceptionally low. So then it's down to, well, what's Aaron's 4th Pokemon? Regieleki is definitely scared a little bit here, knows there's a ground-type move from that Solgaleo, and has to spend, of its Dynamax, 2 turns protecting.
Wow, that was so smart, though. The Solgaleo going to be going for an Earthquake here, but that Max Guard from the Regieleki will stop this Incineroar from being able to Parting Shot out, and so now that Incineroar, despite having that Shuka Berry, will still be taking a ton of damage here. Unfortunately for Aaron, that Earthquake is going to be enough to knock out that Zacian, and we will have to see his 4th and final Pokemon for this Game 1.
It's the Rillaboom, though, and the Rillaboom, a perfect answer here, assuming it's that Groudon in the back. You know, the Grassy Terrain is going to be staying up for the duration of the game, and it just needs to land those Grassy Glides. Of course, Grassy Glide a priority move. You know, it's turn order within your priority bracket, so it doesn't matter so much. And Aaron this could be the get out of jail free card that he needs for this Trick Room, just assuming, of course, that it is that Groudon in the back. I'd be shocked if it wasn't, but I think with that, now Aaron just needs to find the right targeting of Grassy Glide for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like an easy target here is the Solgaleo that is sitting at such low HP, but you also run into the problem that the Incineroar can just Parting Shot, and it did reveal that it wanted to do that in this last turn.
It did, and the big thing is, I think right now, Flavio needs to get the Groudon in as soon as possible. Aaron's just giving it to him now with a couple turns of Trick Room left. The Incineroar gets to Parting Shot, obviously gets to come back in and fake out, and then it's going to be, that last turn of Trick Room is going to be very well positioned and very well set up for Flavio. So, you know, the Parting Shot meaning the Regieleki probably going to be attacking into the Groudon, and that's not the preferred target by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I mean, maybe there's some hope to be able to protect and maybe try to block the fake out, but you can see the rising voltage now coming up from the Regieleki. It's that Groudon, so it will not be able to attack.
No, not being able to land any damage on the Groudon on the way in. That switch absolutely free for Flavio. And then he's able to bring in his fake out, land another Intimidate on the Rillaboom as well to help out with the pressure from those grassy glides. Does need to be careful though. The Trick Room turns are running down a little bit. There is a bit of a clock on that. And if, Trick Room completely expires, there's 2 more turns of it, well, then you're just going to get Rillaboom will deal with your Groudon and Regieleki will deal with your Incineroar. So does need to capitalize on that. Needs to make sure that his targeting is spot on this turn. And if Aaron has a way to protect himself and get around this fake out turn, could be putting himself in a really good position.
Yeah, we did see the max guards coming out from the Regieleki, so I'm going to take a gander that it's going to be protect.
Yeah, I think
Regieleki, but a fake out. It's just going to be a fake out here. Fake out right into the Rillaboom as the Groudon goes for a boosted Fire Punch into that slot, knocking out the Rillaboom here. And now Aaron has no way to be able to hit that Groudon if it's just packing electric type attacks.
Yeah, the Incineroar's not even going to get knocked out by the rising voltage. Of course, getting a little bit of recovery there, but I think Aaron, a little audacious, trying to sneak in and attack with his Rillaboom there, and Groudon very rightfully just saying, no, that's not allowed. I've got the Sun, I've got Fire Punch, and I'm going to knock you out. So Flavio, it needed to take advantage of that final couple turns of Trick Room. That's exactly what he needed to do, and turning it in for Aaron in this one. So nicely done by Flavio to, really control the game from start to finish, I think. That Solgaleo did a lot of work. The Solgaleo hanging on and landing that Trick Room, really nicely done. And maybe something Aaron wasn't quite as prepped for, based on how his team was built, and the 4 he selected for his team.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we do have a second game, though. Flavio, of course, going up 1-0 in this best-of-3 series, and just needs one more game to close it out here and be able to take a full-set victory to kick off this round 1 here at EUIC.
I don't think Aaron's going to give it to him quite that easily, though. I think Aaron's going to fight him on this one, and now he knows a few more of the tricks. Maybe he can give and reveal some of the tricks of his own to make up for it. I think that's a very fair request of him and his team. There's certainly options in there. Can't let that Thunderous just Eerie Impulse him over and over. That Shadow Rider Calyrex did very little in this game. Game 1 that we just saw, and honestly, if he's going to bring it, he's got to do more with it. That's the big change that Aaron needs to make in my mind.
I mean, I still think that Aaron did such a good job, though, when it came down to how much damage that Calyrex Shadow Rider could even just put out onto Flavio's team in the first place. Despite the Eerie Impulse, did put Solgaleo in striking distance. Could have been a damage roll when it came down to whether or not that Solgaleo ended up getting knocked out before the Trick Room went off. And so I do think that Aaron still found out some very valuable information when it came down to how much damage does he really need to invest into being able to knock out some of these Pokemon here. But for this game number 2, I think Flavio's team looks like it has a lot of different options when it comes down to how, where the damage is going to come from, how you're really going to be able to kind of just make that damage work. And for Aaron, I do want to see a bit more from that Shadow Rider Calyrex as well.
That's the big change in my mind that needs to happen. We need more damage out of that. It needs to be controlling and having those explosive and impactful turn 1, turn 2 plays that we just didn't see. It went down at the end of turn 2 in the last game, and that feels a little bit lackluster when you think it's one of your restricted Pokemon. It's got to be doing more. Aaron has made an almost immediate change, and yeah, Flavio sticking with what worked. I do like that, but this Thunderous isn't able to just shred the restricted Pokemon's damage output like it did in game number 1.
We've got Rillaboom and Regieleki here for Aaron for this game number 2, and Flavio is bringing back the Solgaleo and the Thunderous.
Definitely makes sense. Definitely very impactful. Controlled the game. The Eerie Impulse still good against that Regieleki. Still going to be able to try and set up a little bit, I imagine. Try and get some of those boosts. But I don't think Aaron's going to be handing over the Weakness Policy boost quite as easy as he did in game number 1. So then it comes down to, well, is Flavio going to have to set it up for himself? Yes, he is. And then it makes this mind game come forth where, okay, he could brutal swing. That would be great because you set the weakness policy, but then you're doing no damage going forward into the rest of the game. So you're not blocking the damage with Eerie Impulse. So yeah, Thunder is actually just forced to leave, saving itself for later. I like this change though. Get the Groudon in front of the Regieleki. Feels pretty smart on paper.
Yeah, I really like that switch in as well, especially because we are going to see a Dynamax here coming out from Aaron. And what is it going to be? Is it going to be that Rillaboom or that Regieleki? It is that Regieleki here, and I definitely see a world where Aaron was worried about the Brutal Swing coming out from the Thundurus side, activating the weakness policy on that Solgaleo, seeing that revealed in game number 1. But there's also going to be a Dynamax on Flavio's side, so we've got to wait a little bit to see how this turn is going to go.
Both trainers using their Dynamax at the same time, trying to carve out that early advantage, I think is really important for both of them. Maybe Flavio trying to run back that same strategy from game number 1, where he gets 3 big Dynamax turns, sets up some defense boosts, max Quakes, max Steel Spikes, and then is afforded the opportunity to Trick Room. The Rillaboom fake out though, going into the Groudon, not the end of the world. That is a problem for Aaron.
Yeah, that's not good. Unfortunately, the Groudon on the receiving end of that Max Lightning, and the Regieleki, though, taking the hit from the Solgaleo. So the Regieleki is going to be able to stick on the field, but Flavio has 2 special defense boosts now for the Groudon and the Solgaleo.
It's sticking around, but it's really low now, and it's going to be really easy to pick off with pretty much anything. Of course, you do have to move after it because it's Regieleki, but then you end up in a position of, well, can I just deal with it with something not, the Solgaleo doesn't have to deal with it, something else can deal with it, something non-restricted, non-Dynamax could pick that off, and then you're allowing your Solgaleo to attack into something like the Rillaboom. Of course, the Groudon maybe trying to just deal with the Rillaboom itself. That Fire Punch from game 1 was absolutely huge, and that would be probably what you're looking for to get rid of this Rillaboom, then force that alleged Shadow Rider Calyrex in. There's no restricteds on the field yet for Aaron. Force them in, and then get the Eerie Impulses going from the Thundurus. The Thundurus that you saved from turn 1. Ooh. But I like this from Regieleki.
Yeah, we see the Max Strike reveal here from Aaron's Regieleki. We'll be able to drop this speed of both the Groudon and not the Solgaleo, though, because of that full metal body ability. But the Wood Hammer now coming out here. Good call from Aaron's Rillaboom. That speed drop being so important to be able to get the knockout with the Wood Hammer. Guarantee
your Wood Hammer. Why not, right? There's no reason not to if you're going to be able to get there. Regieleki getting taken out by the Steel Spike, getting those boosts set up on it. But we talked about it at the top of the show. What do you put on your Rillaboom? Sometimes you just need a little bit more damage.
Yeah.
There's your perfect example of why you make sure Wood Hammer is available. Max Strike to make sure you go first, and then just deal with the Groudon. That's a restricted taken out for no use, really, for Flavio. No Fire Punch, no Precipice Blades, not able to get the work done that it needs. Of course, you have traded it for the Regieleki, which is a big loss, but both trainers going back to something a little more neutral now.
Yeah, we've got the Incineroar now for both of our trainers. And so we will see the Intimidate first come out from Flavio's side, followed by the Intimidate from Aaron's Incineroar. Of course, Solgaleo is still not affected by those stat drops.
Flavio, a lot more benefit out of that Intimidate because it does land successfully on the Rillaboom, and that means the Rillaboom is going to be struggling to put the damage out that it did just the turn previously, and that's going to be big if you're trying to maybe weave in something. The issue is I mean, the Rillaboom's done its job, right? It dealt with the Groudon really, really nicely. Where does it go from here? That's the question I have to ask, is what does it do now? Or does it end up kind of sat on the field not hitting things and just getting caught by the Incineroar? The Incineroars are going to be able to match off with fake outs right now. Those fake outs are going to be quite good, but looks like Flavio doesn't want to commit to that game.
No, I mean, I think at this point the Intimidate drop was enough. We're going to see the Rillaboom go for a Protect, though, making sure it's going to save itself from some type of Sun boosted fire type attack. But we also have the Solgaleo going for another Max Steel Spike right into the Rillaboom. So smart Protect from Aaron to be able to mitigate some of that damage. But those defense boosts, so important based on what type of damage Aaron has out on the field. But the Burning Jealousy here onto the Solgaleo, and it gets the burn.
Oh, double burn right after, of course, the max steel spike. Being able to just cut that attack boost that you immediately got, absolutely huge here. And this Solgaleo is going to struggle. This is another thing that I know Aaron was talking about before the tournament. Really excited. You know, there's so many trainers relying on the boosts. Why not take advantage of that and hit them back with the Burning Jealousy?
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane. And this Solgaleo now is going to... It's still going to do damage, don't get me wrong. It got a weakness policy boost. It was immediately taken away from it with the effect of the burn. But it's going to struggle. And if it switches out, if it's forced to switch out, things are going to get a little bit dicey for this Solgaleo. So definitely forced to stay in. Neither trainer with a clear advantage, I think, on what's on the board. But numerically and, of course, with the burns, Aaron's definitely in control of this game. He's not revealed a single restricted Pokemon yet, although we do know he only has one.
Now, one Pokemon remaining in the back for Aaron. Who knows what it is, but we'll see a rising voltage here from the Thunder. It's just going to do a little bit of chip damage onto the Rillaboom as the Rillaboom decides to go for the Wood Hammer here, not taking advantage of the grassy terrain for that priority on the grassy glide. But Solgaleo now going for the Sunsteel Strike. Let's see how much damage this Solgaleo is going to be able to do with that burn. And the Sunsteel Strike going into the Rillaboom, still going to do a decent chunk to knock out that Rillaboom. And now Aaron is down to his final two Pokemon as Incineroar goes for the Flare Blitz. Wants to be able to clean up that Thundurus, and that he does.
Taking out the Thundurus so aggressively, Wood Hammering it, Flare Blitzing it, kind of gives me the thought that maybe he's relying on the Shadow Rider Calyrex in the back, just because he doesn't want to get Eerie Impulse like he did in Game 1. So that could be a bit of a giveaway there. But Flavio down to his last two here. One of them is a Burn Solgaleo, which, yes, is still relatively healthy, but probably needs to do a little bit more. And the last, of course, is the Incineroar. So that's forcing the hand a little bit here. If it is the Shadow Rider... Oh, it's the Zacian.
Oh, it's the Zacian.
Okay. I thought because of how scared he seemed of the Thundurus that it would have to be that Shadow Rider Calyrex, but clearly respecting the Thundurus for any of his restricteds. And this Zacian, you know, is going to be in an awkward position, doesn't get its Intrepid Sword boost to stick because it does immediately have to face off against the Incineroar, but at least it's not burned.
At least it is not burned. That is true. There is one more turn of Harsh Sunlight on the field, and so either of these Incineroar could take advantage of that, but Flavio does have access to Fake Out. And so, you know, given that Aaron Zacian is substitute, you know, he's really going to try to go for maybe more of those types of just kind of setup here.
The substitute was really helpful in trying to open some of that space up in game number 1. So being able to deal with that rather nice. And looks like that substitute is immediately going to get taken out, and that's kind of a 25% health sacrifice. As Solgaleo moving last.
Going for
sets up the Trick Room. Yep. As soon as I saw the Incineroar move first, it's like, wait, that doesn't matter. But yes, it has the Trick Room. And now the Solgaleo is in a supreme position. You know, yes, the burn is still there, but at least it gets to be moving first. And that's going to be big if Flavio needs to or wants to win this game and lock the series up 2-0. He's going to need to be moving first. And once again, Aaron hasn't been able to stop the Trick Room going up. Even though I know this team has options to do that, he's just letting Flavio do it every single time.
Maybe not too worried about it. You know, the sun is gone. And if you're going to go for something like a Flare Blitz, you are taking a bit of recoil damage. We also haven't seen too much come out from the Zacian. It is just going to be kind of cycling through some of its defensive options like that Substitute and that Protect. Protect, a very good option right now, just to be able to stall at this very first turn of Trick Room and eat up that Flare Blitz. But now, Aaron's Incineroar going for a Flare Blitz here, just trying to chip away at the Solgaleo. But those Steel Spike boosts that it got towards the beginning of the game definitely paying off here, as Solgaleo goes for another Sunsteel Strike right into the Incineroar.
Hey, you got to get some damage down. You've only got a limited number of turns. Not only your burn, but your Trick Room is going to be ticking down as well. But, you know, the Zacian revealed the Protect last turn. Use the Protect, so it's going to have to fish for it. I know the sun's down, but I don't think it wants to be taking these Flare Blitzes for free either. You know, that's going to be a problem. And don't forget, you know, the damage from Aaron's Incineroar was a little bit underwhelming, but it was intimidated by Flavio's Incineroar on the way in. Zacian's fishing for it again. No double
doesn't
protect.
Get it. So Incineroar on Flavio's side will be able to get another Flare Blitz off it, but Zacian, it hangs on right now with 1 HP.
The invisible focus sash, it's here. It's able to cling on. I mean, if Solgaleo just double targets it here, that's going to be... Oh, there it is. It just gets tidied up.
The Earthquake there. The Shukaberry once again being revealed on Flavio's side, but Aaron's Incineroar also with a Shukaberry, but the Earthquake now going to knock out that Zacian that was able to barely hang on. And now Aaron is down to his 4th and final Pokemon in this game, this Incineroar.
Yeah, the Incineroar's being asked to do a lot. I mean, it is chipping down this Solgaleo quite slowly. And nicely, it's helping, it's getting there, it's dealing some damage. But I don't think it's going to be able to do enough, particularly because after the Intimidate, after those boosts from the earlier Max Steel Spikes, you're going to need multiple turns. The Incineroar's going to need to protect a whole bunch, and somewhere in there, you're going to get caught by an Earthquake. So I don't see a way out of this one for Aaron. Incineroar's trying though. Maybe there's a way. Well, let's let the turn play out.
Yeah, you will be able to get some damage off there with the Flare Blitz, but also the Darkest Lariat now coming through. Doesn't want to take any more recoil damage here. Just going to be doing a little bit more chip as Solgaleo goes for that Sunsteel Strike, hoping to clean up the game here for Flavio. But will it be enough to knock out this Incineroar? It is.
Yep.
Flavio Del Pidio taking the very first round here for EUIC.